r/AskReddit. Men and women of Reddit who caught their significant others cheating. How did you do that? And what was your reaction? June 1st, 2018. Normal day. A Friday. My husband had kissed me goodbye and gone to work. I was cleaning the house for company who was coming to stay the weekend. The doorbell rang. There was a man at my door who introduced himself as the husband of a woman who my husband worked with. He was there to tell me that my husband and his wife were having an affair. He had busted them about 6 months prior and had told his wife that she had to end the affair. He thinks that she did end it for about 3 months, but then they started up again. When he found out they were at it again, he called my husband because he knew if he confronted him in person, he'd be in a jail cell for what he'd have done. On the phone, he told my husband to leave his wife alone or else he would come and tell me everything that was happening. Apparently, my husband thought that he was bluffing. So I was literally the last to know. My husband never came home again. He got an Airbnb and a lawyer. The divorce was December 21st, 2018. We had been together for 24 years. Still hurts. 24 years. Then to just throw it all away, this is the most heartbreaking one. I hope you are doing well and don't think about the scumbag too much. I hope he ended up like Marty in True Detective Season 1, old, alone and eating microwave dinners every night, all because he wanted to sleep around. My ex and I used to share a computer. She was getting messages from her first boyfriend. I didn't bother reading them because I figured he was just saying hi or wanted to know where she was in life now. A couple of months later, I'm on the computer and she insisted that she log out while I'm there. Okay. Things feel weird here. Another couple of days pass and she wants to visit her parents. Okay, cool. I keep the kids and she goes off. I get a call from one of my buddies who works at a hotel where my ex and I are both from saying my wife just checked in with another guy. So long story short, divorced her. Fuck you, Stephanie. I don't understand how people can choose to cheat on the person they had children with. People like that are garbage cowards. Life is better now though. It's hard to legit be mad when things have improved so drastically. As messed up as it was for her to do that, I'm glad you're happier now, man. I caught my wife after she passed away from cancer. Worst feeling ever. Caught between unending love, mourning and absolute anger. Wow man, that is ducking tragic. Please tell me you're seeking help with working through that ocean of emotions. I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day and smoke weed every chance I could, and I was on prescription for hydrocodones that I started to abuse. I was on I didn't give a fuck about anything phase that lasted a good while. A lot of times I didn't want to be around anymore. My family, friends and God are what pulled me through the worst of it. It's been 3 years since she passed, and I'm the only one who knows about her other life. I didn't ruin her name to her friends or family but my image of her is forever shattered. I did forgive her eventually, and I'm now living with my girlfriend, and I'm happy again. This is almost word for word how the convo went. Me, you sleeping with so and so? Her, yeah. Me, want a divorce? Her, kinda. Me, okay I'll file tomorrow. I like how simple that went. Sometimes it's just done, you know? But I'm curious, was it really as short as it sounds? Like neither of you make it worse? Oh yay, it was a super civil conversation. We were just both at a point where we were just tired. Let's just rip the band-aid off and get it over with. I want to say congrats. I feel like that's so hard to do, but easy at the same time. It also always makes me wonder, if you can be civil about cheating and divorce, why can't you be civil enough to move towards divorce before you've cheated? I know it's a touchy subject for some people, and that they cheat to force it, but if you can be an adult, why not go the whole way? Maybe I'm failing to empathize here, I just really don't get it. Went for my yearly checkup and tested positive for chlamydia. Turns out my ex was sleeping around. This happened to me too. Then my ex faked a doctor's note with the word negative, yet he was still prescribed antibiotics, just in case. Little did I know that everyone and their mom advises to never take antibiotics unless you really need them. Also, the condom in his wallet was missing, but he insisted he used it with me. I was on the pill. What a dumb excuse for the missing condom. Calder just said he threw it out because it was old and didn't need it anymore because OP was on the pill. We got married when I was 17 and he was 21. He was shipping off to sea and I was escaping a bad home life. When he came back after his deployment, he wasn't the same person anymore. After about 6 months, he gained weight on purpose to fail his physicals so he'd get kicked out of the Navy. Fast forward a year, I'm working full time and he is sitting at home watching anime and drinking during the day and telling me that he was applying to jobs. I was applying to universities when my laptop died on me. I asked to use his to finish an app and while doing so a message popped up on his Facebook. A topless pic of his ex from her. I was shocked and opened it to find that they'd been dating for a long time. Started again while he was at sea in the Navy. He would talk to her and never to me, saying that he never got the time to email. She had sent him a pic because he had said how he missed having big tits like hers to play with and how mine were just too small, so he felt like he was ducking a boy or a child. I confronted him. He made a bunch of pitiful excuses. I had my friends come to the house that day and kick him out while I went to work. He then stalked me for the next few years and made posts on his Facebook about how I was a coward. He sent emails and called from blocked numbers to tell me that a restraining order is just a piece of paper or that our vows before God made me his property and shit like that. Then he bought a gun and started telling our friends that if he can't have me, no one can. I ended up talking to our friends and told everyone conflicting information about where I was going and moved states. I deleted all my personal social media accounts and lived in fear for years, watching him continually make memes about how he loved his wife and would do anything for her. It took 8 years for me to finally get the divorce from him. Holy hell. I hope you're okay. Thanks. It definitely scarred my idea of relationships as it was my first real one. But I'm way happier now, and I know my worth, and I know to be wary of the red flags early. The story is remarkable in that it happened before the internet was widely available, in the very early 90s, when the world seemed much bigger. My fiancée, Meg, had 1 semester left of college that had to be taken as an internship abroad for her major. She chose to go to Belgium for this internship. I stayed back, and the plan was that I would set up house, and when she returned that summer, she would move directly in, and we would set a date for our wedding. So, while Meg was off in Europe, calling every couple of weeks to check in, the long distance was super expensive back then, sending me postcards and letters, I moved into a brownstone, bought furniture, etc. About 2 weeks before Meg was supposed to return, I stopped into a nearby coffee house that I had noticed down the block, but had yet to visit. To my surprise, I found that my neighbor from growing up in a completely different city, Claire, was a waitress there. We hadn't seen each other since high school, so we made a plan to meet up after her shift for a cup of coffee to catch up. We met and Claire told me that she was engaged as well to a man, Ben, who was completing his course of study by working on an internship in, you guessed it, Belgium. I couldn't believe the coincidence and told her about my fiancé and that they had to know each other. Crazy, right? A couple days later, I stopped in for a cup of coffee and Claire looked extremely upset. She asked if I had time to wait as she had a break coming up and that she needed to talk to me. We went outside and she told me that she had gotten a call from her Aunt Sue the day before. Aunt Sue had just returned from Czechoslovakia and that something very strange had happened. While they were touring Prague, Sue and her travel group had stayed in a local hotel, and the next morning she had run into Claire's fiancé, Ben, in the lobby, with a female companion by the name of Meg. She said that he introduced her as a student from America, that they worked together, but it was very awkward and they both looked scared shitless. Claire said that she immediately called long distance to Belgium, and after several tries over the course of a day or so, got him on the phone. She asked him about the chance encounter, and he said he had been kind of expecting her call, and ended up admitting that he had been seeing Meg pretty much the entire time they were in Europe, spending weekends and holidays traveling around with each other. I was floored. Couldn't believe it. After that, I went home and started trying to call Meg at her dorm in Belgium, finally getting through to her late into the night, early morning for her. I point blank asked her if she was dating Ben. I didn't even explain how I knew about it. She hemmed and hawed for a moment, kind of acting like I was crazy for saying something so nonsensical, but when I said that I knew Claire, she dropped the facade and admitted to all of it. So Ben and Meg had a very bittersweet homecoming. Meg got off much easier than Ben, as Claire had already left all of his belongings on the front lawn from the day she found out, which had been pretty picked over by the time he got back 2 weeks later. I did pick Meg up from the airport. I think at the time I really just wanted to see her face when I told her that all of our friends knew what a piece of shit she was and that I never wanted to see her again. To this day I revel in how many utterly astounding factors of complete random coincidence went into Meg and Ben, who later married, then later divorced after he cheated on her, being caught. The universe works in incredible and mysterious ways. Did you end up dating Claire? I did not. We remained friends, but I moved out after the lease was up, and to a different part of the city, eventually different part of the country. We reconnected briefly when Facebook became a thing, but I haven't talked to her in probably 10 years. My friend and his wife were in Rome a few years ago on vacation. She got a text while in the shower, and he found out she was cheating. He grabbed his passport, phone, and wallet, took a cab to the airport, and flew home without leaving a message or saying a word to her. He went home, packed his bags, moved out and filed for divorce. He ghosted her the second he discovered it. The last conversation they ever had was her telling him she was going to take a shower. I caught my ex sexting a chick and telling her how he missed her on my birthday. I was young at the time and reacting with crying and yelling. If it ever happened now I would just get up and leave. No point in trying to mend the relationship because it's near impossible to gain the trust that was lost. Same shit happened to me and did the same. More so cried and for some reason wished he'd begged and pleaded to make things better. He didn't that day and I left. Fast forward 2 weeks, and he was begging for me back. Got back together 2 months later only for it to end a couple weeks later. As you said, once the trust is gone, it's never the same. I owned a house with my fiancé. I woke up in the middle of the night and he wasn't in bed. I went searching. His truck and another vehicle were in the driveway. Then, I went upstairs and found the guest bedroom was locked. After barging my way in, I found him with another woman in bed. That bed happened to be my childhood bed. He forced me out of the room. Literally grabbed me by the neck and pushed me out and closed the door back. I knew I couldn't do anything at that point, so I called his parents who lived a few blocks away. His dad showed up and another fight broke out. I ended up leaving and staying at his parents until dawn. I moved out that weekend and let the house foreclose. 9 years later, it's finally off my credit report. I'm happily married to an amazing man, and we own a beautiful home together. In the same house. Brazen doesn't even begin to describe it. Glad things worked out for you in the long run. I hear you. It still blows my mind he was so ballsy. That was really kind of your parents-in-law to let you stay with them. Did you talk to them at all after that? I had been dating their son for 5 years at that point and we were very close. However, they never reached out to me after I moved out. It was like I didn't exist anymore. He also moved that girl in a few weeks later, and they moved on with her until he inevitably did the same to her. I had some really good friends in the next town over where my girlfriend lived, and they figured it out for me. They were super gentle about it and patient with me through my denial. Those are real friends. A few years back I was dating this girl and ended up becoming really good friends with her brother. He appreciated me helping their family when their father died suddenly. 2 years into the relationship, asks to meet up for coffee and a serious talk. Apparently he caught his own sister with another guy, a mutual friend of ours. It had been going on for like a year. Broke up with her. Still friends with the brother. The end. What a bro. For real. It was clearly the right thing to do, but people underestimate how hard it is to do it. In fairness, you have no way of knowing how the cheated on person will take it. There are so many stories of people trying to do the right thing, but the cheatee shoots the messenger instead of being mad at the cheater. This first started back in December, right before we went on a holiday trip to see my family. She started acting somewhat off, kinda distant, and easily aggravated. I had a suspicion that something was going on, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I snooped on her iWatch. Found some incriminating texts she had with a friend, so I confronted her in January. She tells me that she kissed a guy that she works with and that was it. We were having some issues in our relationship and I choose to forgive her, and we decided to try working on some of the issues we were having. Well, fast forward to this past May, she breaks down that she wasn't honest with me and that she had actually fucked this other dude. We split after the news. We had been together 8 years and had been engaged for almost 2 years. Our wedding date was supposed to be ducking yesterday. It's still fucking killing me. I don't even know where to go from here. That means the final piece is in the past as of yesterday. You've got your whole future man, and if you almost married one you'll find another. They will be better, and you'll be a stronger man. I had been dating this guy for almost a year, and I thought it was going pretty well. We had even been talking about moving in together soon once he got a promotion and could better afford a house. One night I was at his apartment, and he left his phone charging in the bathroom. I got up to go to the bathroom and his phone buzzed. Maybe I shouldn't have looked, but I was curious why he got a text so late, so I looked, and it's some woman saying, "Are you coming over tomorrow night, or is she still around?" I was of course furious, so I unlocked the phone. I don't think he knew I knew his code, but I did, and read through their messages. Apparently he'd been dating her for about a month and she even knew he was in a relationship. They were talking about me and she said, "You're really still dating that zookeeper?" He said, "Yeah, and she smells like one too," or something like that, and how I was broke, and he was glad he met this other woman instead. So I cried for a while in the bathroom before leaving. I told him I was just sick and had to go home while I thought about what to do. I can't believe he was not only seeing her, but also that he'd insult me like that. I work with otters, sea lions, and foxes, which are all super stinky animals, but I always shower after work when I can. I'm sure there's still some smell, but he'd never said it was a problem before. I decided not just to break up with him, but to get back at him. If he wants to cheat and say I stink after I shower, I'll show him a stink. I started secretly shoveling some pretty nasty stuff at work into a baggie towards the end of the day and taking it home, and that went on for a couple weeks. One day when he was at work, I went to his apartment. I had a key and went to the bedroom and dumped about 10 pounds of otter crap on his bed, the bed we slept together on. I underestimated the effect this would have in a warm indoor space. It's awful even at the zoo in open air, but that putrid digested fish smell hit me like a ton of bricks. After walking outside to gag for 2 minutes, I got the courage to go back in and leave him a note saying that I'm breaking up with him, left the key on the counter, and went home. He texted me in all caps that night about how he was going to sue me, but I blocked his phone. The weirdest part for me is how a girl that takes care of otters and foxes for her job would not be an absolute catch. That's an awesome gig. I would expect a guy to brag about that girlfriend all the time. I would also keep trying to convince her to bring me on her work day and let me help. Sounds like an awesome day to have once in a while. A friend of mine was suspicious of her husband cheating as he went to play soccer with friends way too often. He always came already showered as he would sweat playing. One day she sewed his soccer socks together, and when he came back all showered she saw the socks were still sewed, so he wasn't playing soccer at all. What a plan. Very smart. Dated a girl for about 2 years. Like 18 months into the relationship we are talking about moving in together. Then kinda out of nowhere she starts becoming distant and irritable. We ended up breaking up. Fast forward 3 months after the breakup I found that Facebook has a section where messages from non-friends are kept. Turns out my then girlfriend was banging her ex and the UPS driver that delivered to her store at the mall. She ended getting with the UPS driver and his 3 kids. Last I checked they're ducking miserable, and it brings me joy every time I think about it. So the mailman memes aren't fiction after all. Most service guys have at least a story. I was in furniture delivery 4 years and some women are way too forward. Starts applying for furniture delivery jobs. The odds are good, but the goods are odd. 4 years ago I was dating a girl who became distant and disinterested in a lot of things we both enjoyed together. Despite attempts to talk about it, she only grew more distant, then became less available to hang out and suddenly was working late a lot. I started getting suspicious about cheating when she was on her phone non-stop. Again I tried to talk about it, but she wouldn't engage. She also just didn't want to break up with me for whatever reason. I was actually going to end it on my own, but one weekend, when she was seemingly unavailable, some mutual friends told me they spotted her with a dude from her work and they were all over each other. Coincidentally, she had also lent me her iPad, and it was synced to her phone, so I saw lots of texts between those two over that weekend. They were talking about running away together, etc. He was married and her supervisor. Mutual friends were also composed of her co-workers, and reported them to HR. They were both forced to do training on not sleeping with co-workers. They were both denied promotion, his wife left him, and she moved overseas. Sucked at the time, I was devastated, but karma got them good. It wasn't a big damn breaking moment. It was a lot of little things. Like how she'd cancel plans at the last second. Or the random phone calls from unknown numbers she'd get. This was back before spam calls were an epidemic. Or how her phone was mysteriously off one night when I needed to get a hold of her. I had my suspicions, and then finally it clicked into place when I did some Instagram snooping and found a guy who followed her who posted a selfie wearing a very unique jacket that belonged to her. I confronted her the next day. She denied it. Tears. Begging. All of that. I dumped her and walked away. The next day I messaged that guy on Instagram and he confirmed everything. Had no idea I existed. He dumped her too. Last I heard she's an EMT in Wyoming. Hope she figured out how not to be a garbage person. Spam calls were definitely an epidemic before Instagram existed, right? Your mileage may vary, but I wasn't getting a dozen spam calls a day to my cell 6 years ago. I was 8 months pregnant with our second child at the time and he wanted to go visit his brother for the weekend. I asked my doctor if it was safe for me to travel, and she said it would be fine. I told my husband I could go, but he said he was really hoping to just have some time with his brother. I understood because a new baby really makes it hard to spend quality time, but I asked if he could take our older son, 3 years old at the time, so he could see his grandma and cousins. He said they were planning on drinking and whatnot and wasn't sure it would be a good idea. They're country boys so think shooting, drinking and whatnot. I agreed and he left for the weekend. After he left I get a call from his best friend telling me that he'll be in town for the weekend and he wanted to meet up. Not weird he called me because my husband was terrible at answering his phone. I told him unfortunately my husband was visiting back home. Bad timing. His best friend then said okay, I'm going to call you back. and hung up very abruptly. Turns out my husband and his wife had been caught by him a few months previously, and he gave them a chance to make it right. I don't know why. He didn't tell me, but threatened to if they didn't stop. Well, they didn't stop, and he told me. I think the worst part was that my husband's family knew and never once thought to tell me. These people were my family for 5 years and nothing. It's been almost 10 years now, and I'm so much happier, but it was definitely an eye-opening experience. His family knew and didn't tell you? Oh my god, that's awful. I was at work and tried to call my boyfriend, but he wasn't answering even after a few hours, and I just got a horrible feeling. It stressed me out so badly for some reason that I started to cry, and my boss let me go home. The whole way home I just kept feeling serious dread. Walked in the house and into my bedroom, and he was laying in bed half clothed with some naked chick. Obviously a huge blow up went down, and after everything settled, this motherfucker tried to tell me that he went to the movies alone and met her there, and she followed him home. Like, even if I believe that this person just followed you home and got naked, you let her do it, so what's the purpose of saying that to me? It was a shitty abusive relationship, and it didn't even end then. I eventually broke up with him, but not on the spot, like I should have. If I could change anything about my life, it would be that I wish I broke up with that guy sooner. That was over 10 years ago though. Well, you see, she led him to the bed and he just couldn't say no to this. The husband of one of the women he was cheating on me with called me at work. At first I didn't believe him and hung up. How could the man I spent the past 8 years with, had 2 beautiful babies with, suffered together the loss of one of those children do something so hurtful? Still a part of me had doubt. He had affairs in other relationships, and we had a rocky patch early in the beginning where I suspected an affair, but didn't have proof. I told my boss I felt sick and had to leave early, and I called this guy back and found out that my ex and his wife along with one of their friends were all sleeping together for about a year. He had confronted my ex and told him that he was going to tell me, but my ex convinced him to wait a month since my mother had just died. I took my time coming home and confronted him and told him to pack and leave. Since I've pieced together a lot of what happened and all the lies he told me where, if I was in a different headspace I might have caught onto the affairs earlier. I also found videos hidden on one of our computers and found out he was having booty calls in our apartment while I was at work and he was watching our daughter. At that point it put the headstone on any possibility of reconciliation. While your daughter was in the house. Jesus Christ. I met a woman at a bar who invited me back to her place. Found out she was married and her young child was upstairs. She was gorgeous, but the scene was so dysfunctional. She said her husband ignored her. I told her she needed to see a therapist, and she looked at me like I was crazy. Before I left she asked me if she could open my shirt so she could feel my chest. I let her and then walked out the door. So much awkward.